Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have CATALYSTS. They have a new single called Sparks, which is fifth via Dharma Records. Right now, I'm being joined by Elliot to share some more information about what the band has got going on about this stellar release.
Hey, John. Yeah, how you doing? It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Abso-freaking-lutely. How long has it been since you were last on? I'm sure I could look this up, but...
Oh, do you know what? It doesn't feel that long ago, but I'm pretty sure it's probably been over a month or so. Yeah, because we were talking about our last releases. So they were out at the end of August time. Yeah, so perhaps it was about September. I don't know. It seems to be, it feels shorter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like we had you, or at least the episode was published October 16th, so episode 1110. So if you want to go ahead and head over to the Rock Metal Podcast.ca, you can check out the episode there, or on YouTube. You can look up CATALYSTS podcast page, and you can that interview as well. We had David.
Yes. Just me this time.
Just you. That's okay. So what's new over the last couple of months? Obviously, we have this new single, Sparks, that we can chat about. You mentioned that you yourself actually had COVID, even though you're, what we used to call fully vaccinated. Now we're thinking we might need 4 shots or 5 shots. But double vaccinated, had COVID. Maybe take us through that experience. What's that like?
Well, yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system because I've managed to sort of coast my way through this entire pandemic. Luckily, being unscathed by the virus. But about a fortnight ago, I started to come down with mild sort of cough symptoms, and then about 4 days after that, I found myself in a queue to be tested with the PCR test. And I could barely stand up in the queue at the time. I was aching from head to toe, and I shouldn't have really driven to the test center, to be honest with you. I was delirious. I had to do it because it got, pretty bad pretty quickly. And then I was pretty much laid up in bed for 7 days after and isolated for 10. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system. I mean, COVID kicked my butt. I got to be honest. It completely just wiped me out. And we had this whole thing planned with the band. We're going to do, what was we going to do? We're going to do a long sort of rehearsal session. We booked the studio for half a day, and this nice big sort of room where we can rehearse in and start rehearsing the new songs and start getting the music nice and tight, whilst sort of parallel running with Dave, recording his demo vocals and the demos we have. And all that has just been laid to waste recently. It's difficult to get that motivation back up and running, I guess, so close to Christmas, as well as getting things booked in is quite difficult. So we're a bit like, came completely at the wrong time for us, but here we are. We'll knuckle down over Christmas and we'll get some new songs sorted.
You say it would be the spark or the catalyst to
yeah.
Well, that's crazy. I mean, so yeah, you've spent the entire time being COVID free, get double vaccinated. Bam. Any idea how it may have happened? Like that one party that maybe you shouldn't have gone to and licked that one strain.
I have been racking my brains trying to figure this out because coincidentally, our drummer, Haith, he was complaining that he had a cold a few days after we'd been in rehearsals and that he couldn't shake it. And so obviously when I had my PCR test come back positive, I was like, you need to go and have one because I'm pretty sure you've passed this on to me. Half jokingly, a bit of a banter. In which he did go and get a PCR. Him and his partner both tested negative. So it wasn't him. They said I could have been most infectious on a day where I was at a cinema, so that wasn't good. I was actually watching Dune. And they said that possibly it could be like a 48-hour, 72-hour incubation period before that. So I don't really know. The only thing I did was band practice. Who knows? It could have just been the supermarket. I could have gone to a store. I could have, not been thorough washing my hands after being out.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, all the way through this, I've, managed to stay away from it, and then all of a sudden, bang. But, I'm getting on a bit, and my double jabs are probably wearing out, so I probably need that extra boost for my immunity. But yeah, it's.
Do you think?
I'm just thankful that it wasn't, I wasn't needing hospitalization or anything like that. I'm just thankful that it was pretty much like a bad flu, and I've got my sense of taste and smell back now really quickly, because I know people don't. I know people who haven't had that back at all for full stop, really.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine, also double vax, ended up getting it, and he said it was like a mixture of the flu and mono for a good week.
Yeah, I could relate to that. Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, John. I am a bit of a whingy person when I'm ill. Anyway, it doesn't take a lot for me just to go, I'm ill, I'm packing in, I'm staying in bed. I am. Like people say, you get the man flu. I am very much like the man flu. So I'm probably not best to speak to, because I just shut down when I don't feel very well. So,
Now that you're on the other side.
Hey, this is fantastic.
Glad to be alive, I'm sure.
Yeah. You're on fire, John.
Thank you.
Absolute fire.
Usually people say you got no soul.
Oh, is that... You've done them all? Oh, no, it's one more.
No, because I'm not on Sylvia at the moment. But
no.
Yoga last night
we'll
did...
do one next to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could stop and do Warrior 3 for, like, yoga pose. Figure out how to make it the ultimate.
I still can't believe we called our song that.
Because of yoga? Is it a yoga?
No, because we started writing the song the day that unfortunately Ultimate Warrior passed away, and so it was one of those working titles that just didn't shake at all. And it's just one of those things, you just think, oh, we'll just label it on the rough demo to send to Dave to sing Ultimate Warrior, which I've stopped doing silly names on them now, because he'll start singing about things to do with Ultimate Warriors. Yeah, but yeah, little backstory there.
Backstories are good stories. I like backstories. Now, I guess maybe take us through this EP as a whole, because the whole EP is called Sparks. We have a single called Sparks, a music video called Sparks. The artwork is cool, obviously. Sparks. Did it all start with this track? Because this track seems to be pretty important. It's got the title track of the EP. It's got a music video.
I think it was one of the first couple. I can't really remember whether it was this one or Sylvia that created sort of the band as Catalysts, really, as what it is today, the sound. We've been tinkering around with a number of sort of, well, I suppose really carving our sound design as a band. And I know Sylvia and Sparks were two songs. Now, they were very different sounding songs back then. They wasn't how they sound now. They were more, I guess they were more pop punk possibly sounding, rather than, as sort of alternative synth rock that we've sort of morphed into. I
myself was trying to figure out where to stick you guys, not necessarily for like a magazine. You guys are definitely post-hypnotic disco funk, but
feels a bit like that, but yeah.
And this might come out of left field, but I almost hear influences Garbage.
Well, I guess that's because of the more to do with the era, perhaps, or the era of where Garbage was in. I mean, I love Butch Vig and his productions, and we were big 90s sort of grunge fans, me and Dave. But certainly myself, coming from a songwriting, guitar sort of riff writing sense, I'm a big fan of those sort of big, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, but also, that sort of British post-grunge and post, bands like, I suppose Garbage. You could throw Garbage in there because nobody died and they didn't stop. So, there's going to be hints of that sort of feeling in there as well.
Yeah, they were pretty big here in North America. Was it a massive thing in the UK at the time?
Yeah, because Shirley Manson was Scottish. So, yeah. So they kind of managed to cross the pond quite easily there with and, the UK is quite I suppose the UK is a little bit better at taking on sort of that transatlantic bands than perhaps the other way around so much. I don't know, you know, there's always that sort of, we had the Beatles and you had the Beach Boys and those sorts of things like that. So, but yeah, I think it was just easier because, yeah, I mean, they're all great bands, it's not a competition, even though it's a competition.
At that time, though, and that was an exciting time in the recording industry where, the Beatles could come out with something and people go, whoa. And then,
yeah, it was, how did you do that? How are they doing this?
Yeah.
How are they doing that reverse orchestra, loop that never ends and never stops? And then, I know that they were really, it was a friendly competition between them, and they both grew from listening to each other's music and how their techniques are doing that. So that's really healthy. I guess we don't sort of, well, I guess in our local scene, we have that between some other bands. So some other bands might do something and you think, oh, I can see how that could fit maybe into what we might want to do, or something along the lines. I mean, a lot of synths started getting introduced to bands around here. Some people stood in and had actual keyboard players, just playing some more melodic one-liner leads. I tended to go to a next level and just program a whole orchestra of synths into my music and don't ask anybody to play it because it's too insane when it needs to be programmed, So, yeah, that's kind of how we got there, really. So I think, going back to the original question, I think Sparks was one of the first two that were written in the band, and I couldn't tell you which way round it came through first, but I think the reason why we've left it so long is because we rewrote it so many times. We'll say rewrote it, but we kind of kept tinkering with the structures and the lead lines and trying to find the best possible scope. And then when Dave laid down his vocals with us, it just started to become a bit epic sounding. It's huge space for him to move around in, and I probably, with my business hat on, which I don't like putting on all the time, it's probably the most commercial sounding song we've done on the EP. I think it's, a bit more accessible to everybody across the scope, not just people who might listen to rock and heavy music, or, it can be accessible for maybe a bit more of an indie crowd. And yeah, I think that's why we kind of left it to the end. I think for me, it was a toss up between Sparks and You Got No Soul. Because I felt You Got No Soul was a bit more of perhaps an earworm. I like to call an earworm something that's got a bit more of a hook, catchy, chanty element to it. But they're two completely different beasts, and so I think I let Phil from our label decide which way round to do it in the end. And he said, well, I like the idea of Sparks being the head track of an EP, and we weren't that bothered either way, so we just went with it. Mm-hmm. I think it's the best artwork out of it all. Personally, I'm a bit biased because I did it, but I did them all. But I think it's a little bit more, I don't know, snazzy.
Snazzy. Is that what you were? Is that what you were going for when you were? You said you do all the artwork. So is that what you were going for? You said, guys, this has got to be snazzy.
No, I don't. The thing is that because we were all very much stuck in sort of the first steps of coronavirus, and we were thinking we need to release some music. So I did the first two. I wasn't very happy with the thumbnails, but they were self-released before we met Phil and Dharma Records. So it was sort of like just anything just to get it out on the streaming services and get our music out there. And then I think I did Ultimate, Sylvia, You Got No Soul, and Sparks in concession. I just sat down one night and just did them all, and I knew that I wanted to have bright, vibrant colours, and I knew I wanted the logo up front on all of them, and I know I wanted it to look like it had a bit of a theme through the singles, a little bit to do, so yeah, I just knocked them out. I don't think I'll do the next bunch. It's too stressful. I just want to concentrate on, putting the music out there, writing the music and playing the music. I think I might just, get somebody to come and either do the artwork, or we'll take some photographs of something. I don't know. I got a few ideas, but I'm not quite there yet.
Okay. Now, I don't necessarily chatted about the EP as a whole, but I guess what was the intention? Was it to be snazzy again?
Well, as a musical, piece, as a product, I guess I, I was going for this. Let's not do anything like an EP or an album. Let's just constantly just release singles and songs, because the way people consume music these days is very different. Even myself, it's very different than when I was, 15. I don't really buy albums anymore and if I am buying albums, it's usually albums that I've owned previously and now I'm just getting in my vinyl collection. It's just one of those sort of uh, situations we're in. So I'm always streaming different types of new music, don't get me wrong, but that's it. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm streaming and I'm listening to the singles that come out at the time. I mean, maybe some bands that are close to my heart, I'll sit down and listen to the whole album. But most of the time, you're just being fed through sort of algorithmic sort of Spotify playlists of things that you think you might like. And so you let it run and you see if you can find something new that way. So I wasn't really interested in releasing an EP or printing physicals or anything. But it came a time where it felt like what we were writing now, we need to bookend what we wrote before. And I thought the best way we could do that really is to take these collection of 6 songs that were all written in a period of time and history for us as a band and say this is our first collection of songs as an EP, and so we've got a whole other collection of songs that we're polishing up and finishing off, that we might do a similar thing. It might actually evolve into an album by the time, depends on how many tracks we get to. We're currently up to about the same as this EP, but we could end up doing a few more and saying it's an album,
Yeah. Okay. I guess otherwise, what's the plan then? Are shows available?
They are, but they're really difficult to get on because of when COVID hit. We had such a backlog of bands rebooking, after they had their shows cancelled, and so they got carried forward. And so speaking to a few booking agencies, not that work with Catalyst, but just generally with other bands I work with, there's this huge backlog of shows that are being filled right up until sort of 2022. So we'll probably end up doing some smaller shows locally. I know that we're trying to get across the bridge from South Wales into Bristol, just to try and play to a different sort of demographic, really.
I hear they're a different demographic in Bristol.
They're not hugely different, but
a little rural here.
Yeah.
I hear they have a funny accent in Bristol.
Well, you talk a bit like there, don't they? As if you're laying carpet, But yeah, I can't say anything. Look at the Welsh accent. You are no look you now, but telling you, whose coat is that jacket? I'll be there now in a minute.
There it is. I mean, there it is.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's super ridiculous.
I mean, you hear Welsh people on the news, like our local sort of regional channel news, and you're listening and you think, you have just found the most stupidest sounding Welsh person to put. And when they put them on national, so it goes out, England, Scotland, Wales and whatnot, they really lay it on thick there. And you just think, oh, no, we're not really like that. Not everyone, anyway.
Everyone. I have met them on this fine show, though, and at the end of the interview, they'll say, "Do you have any tips?" And I got one for you. If there's a standardized English that you could use, that would be.
Well, yeah, no, we call it Wenglish. It's a cross between Welsh and English, so it's just one of those things. Dialect.
Yes, dialectically speaking. Groovy.
But yeah, so I guess that's the reason for the EP, the collection of songs we've done in a period of time, for us to be able to sort of move on and write and be creatively I suppose, expressively different from what we've done before, but still be Catalysts in the way that we do it. We thought we would just write another collection of songs, because that's what happens. You write a collection of songs in a period of time, and they do form their own sort of sound, and they might change ever so slightly from the stuff you've done before. I mean, that's just sort of evolution of bands, isn't it, really, and what they do. And we do, we seem to write in threes. So if I can do like a 3 and then another 3, and then, it's a bit strange, really, but that just seems what happens for us.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the easiest way for it to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, we probably print up some very limited run of CDs, because I mean, some people like to buy CDs still, and if they want to take something away with them that night, if they see us at a show eventually, then it'll be nice for them to be able to have that option. Yeah. So we thought we'll just create the EP, print some limited run CDs, and move on from there, really.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned being a vinyl collector. Is there a 7-inch that works for this EP?
No, I don't think so. It's too expensive, to be honest with you, here, and the lead time on vinyl. My other band I'm in, not to plug my other band, but the other band I'm in, I won't say their name. We had a lead time of pretty much 12 months from when COVID hit. They were so busy, and we were hoping that. Well, we did have a label, but that all collapsed just before the album got finished, mastered. Quite thankfully, really, because it wasn't a pretty end, a pretty rotten demise to the label. And so it was nice to be disassociated from it. And then, obviously, with COVID hit, nobody really was picking anything up. So we decided to do a self-release, and that's when the lead time of vinyl, we were like, how long? Well, we can't do anything anyway. So, yeah, let's take it. So... So that kind of, yeah. And I'm not sure, for us and our type of music, what we do, whether it would be in great demand from people who are collecting vinyl. I mean, we can always look later down the road. Perhaps we could do something, but right now it's streaming, and it's not even a CD yet. So, yeah.
Makes sense, baby. That makes sense. Chatted about COVID, chatted about Garbage and Shirley Manson. Album artwork. We talked about crafting the album artwork. The goal was snazzy. It's on the post-it note. Snazzy with
snazzy. Yeah. I don't know. I just needed something. So even if it wasn't snazzy, it could have been anti-snazzy, and it still would have had to go because we needed something.
Chatted about the EP out, whole EP out November 5th, or just the single out November?
No, it's the whole collection of songs now as an EP. Yeah. So
okay, cool. Out via Dharma Records. Now, something actually that you mentioned, and may go right or wrong, I don't know. But one of the questions I get a lot are, do you know any good record labels? And I do know good record labels that I would trust my own music. But you just mentioned, you're like, hey, this record label kind of sucks. I'm glad that we do anything with that. What was it about that record label that you like, I guess, is the question.
Well, John, it was a bit too personal to go into.
Okay, then we won't.
The gossip was that the owner had a big movement of sort of women saying that he'd been, abusive towards them in some ways or whatever through a period of time. So
guy in a suit with Coke on his desk.
Yeah, it wasn't good, and I think that it had been ignored for quite some time. And then obviously a movement happened, didn't it? Where people started to come forward, and finally people were paying attention to historic issues, and so the director got a little bit caught up in all that, and in some way, like, we were so close to sort of signing the dotted line or giving the paperwork in, because they'd had previous EPs from this band that different incarnation, but essentially it was the same sort of band. And so we were just about to submit the album when it came out, and so I'm glad. Not that it would have been a problem, because of what happened in the situation, everybody got the rights to their music back instantly. Everybody got control. Everybody bought back their stock or got given it. We actually had our stock given back to us, so that wasn't a problem. But it was just a little bit disappointing that, that's there. That's the world we live in, and I'm so glad that the women were brave enough to come out and call it out and continue following that up, because some of the accounts were absolutely harrowing. I mean, disgusting, really. But there we are. That's that is extremely sad. I mean, in some ways, it wasn't a great big deal for us as a not Catalyst, but that other band, because it was so low key previously and been such a long time since anything had been done. So 2015 was the last EP released, so it was quite some time. And to be honest with you, I think it was a bit of a blessing in disguise in the end, but it does leave us a little bit labelless. But I mean, the album's fantastic, so hopefully it will speak for itself and find its audience and a voice in its own right.
Yeah, maybe devil's advocate. Obviously, again, it could go right or wrong, but you guys approach Dharma Records about the album release?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously I showed Phil everything I do. I'm in 3 bands. Well, I'm in 4 bands, but 3 bands Phil knows about and is here. So he's obviously Dharma Records. I mean, it's a very small independent label. Phil doesn't really sign bands. He works with sort of intellectual property that the label owns and tries to work it into film, advertising, syncs, and that sort of thing. Yeah, got quite a prolific catalogue, and one particular act that had a UK top 40 hit, Daydream by iMonster. Not sure if you've heard it, but it's been on TV and adverts all over the place, really. It's a great song, and they're a great act as well. But yeah, I think that he just wanted to. The reason how I know Dharma Records and Phil is because I was in a band called the Kennedy Soundtrack in 2000, early 2000s, which was a bit of a funk rap rock. We got pigeonholed as new metal, but we wasn't Limp Bizkit. But I understand why people think, rap and guitars. Oh, you must be like Linkin Park. And it's like, well, I wish. But yeah, And so that he came into the fold because he took over what was left of that label that band was on. And so we were releasing music with that band, and I kind of said, "Oh, do you want to have a listen to this?" And he really liked Catalyst. He seemed really passionate about it. He really liked the vibe, and so we struck up sort of an agreement. It's not a huge record deal. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a record deal. I think it's probably more development sort of thing, but it's a mutual understanding, and we both trust each other with what we're doing.
Very cool.
Which is a nice way to, it's just a nice way to work, because like you said earlier, suits and contracts and things just really get things muddy, And at the moment, with what we're working with in the times we're working with, who wants to be sort of wrapped into a 5-year contract with anything just yet? You can't actually do anything.
Agree, baby. All right, so new EP Sparks out via Dharma Records right now as we speak, everywhere that you consume music. The music video Sparks is available on YouTube. Check out the boys on any social media network at Catalyst UK.
Yeah.
And I believe that concludes all of my questions. Elliot, is there anything I missed?
I don't think so, John. You hit all the points that I think we wanted to hit, and about the EP. Just if you're listening, go out and check it out. Let us know what you think. Leave us a comment on YouTube and follow us on Spotify. It'd be great, and whatever music platform you use. Yeah, just we're always happy to interact. So if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask the band, just say hello.
All right. Well, thank you so much then for coming on to the Rock Metal Podcast.
Thanks for having me back, John.